This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 6 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and after shooting for a couple of hours with a pre-production version of Nikon's just announced $2,400 Z6 III out on the streets of New York, and owning, I should add at one point, a Z7 II which was Claudia's daily driver, I will just cut to the chase. The Z6 III goes well beyond a modern manual of arms version of the ZF, and subject to confirmation by going hands-on with a production version of the camera over an extended period of time, I'd say the Z6 III just may surpass its nearest competitor, Sony's outstanding, also $2,400 as I'm recording this, a7IV, a camera we've also owned. Hold that thought. For some of us, the Z6 III may now make even more sense as a video-centric hybrid than Sony's $3,500 half the megapixels a7S III, while giving up less than one might imagine in practice. It's another camera we've owned, hold that thought. But even with the pre-production camera doing nothing beyond my kind of street photography, I immediately realized that the Z6 III is a different beast than anything I've ever seen from Nikon. Put differently, the Z6 III just may be the most significant step forward for Nikon since the introduction of the original Z6 and Z7 6 years ago. Bigger, maybe, than the Z9 and subsequent Z8. That's because, A, there is now little to no reason for regular, ordinary Nikon shooters, F or Z mount, to switch to Sony or anything else at anywhere near the price, on the basis of autofocus or video capability. With the Z6 III, Nikon has essentially achieved or exceeded autofocus parity even with the D850 and Sony's a7IV and a7S III. As I said, we've owned both of those cameras. I've shot with a D850. And Nikon has always beaten Sony for ergonomics. B. These same strengths may impel non-Nikon shooters to switch to Nikon. C. The Z6 III now exceeds in some ways. It offers no crop 4K 60p, 4K 120p Super 35 crop, superior low light autofocus performance, internal RAW recording, CF Express Type B and SD. But not others. It doesn't have active cooling smaller open gate, its ergonomics, real-time depth of field preview, and price are not as good as our all-time favorite video-centric hybrid, Panasonic's now as low as $1,800 S5 II, never mind the S5 IIX. The S5 II is our daily driver here in the Batcave and our go-to for on-location 3-camera shoots and the camera on which I'm recording this video. C. To my way of thinking, there is the additional benefit for anyone coming to the Z-mount of access to what I believe is the best lineup of 1.8 primes anywhere south of Leica's 5 to 6 times the price reference standard apo-summicron SLF2s. They simply have no real competition from Sony, Canon, Panasonic, nor the best independent lens manufacturers out there. E. Oh yeah, then there are Nikon's high-end zooms and super telephotos among the very best in the business, irrespective of price. Finally, F. The mere existence of the Z6 III with video capabilities this good especially, hold that thought too, confirms, I think, what has become increasingly clear for the past 18 months or so. The rate of relevant, usable, and accessibly priced technical advances in the industry has slowed. And this has allowed other companies to narrow or close the gap with, right, Sony. No one else quite the same way, not even Canon. That's because no other camera manufacturer has the core competencies in sensor technology and manufacturing that Sony has as the global leader in the industry. And no technology other than the processors to go with them is as central to the success of today's modern mirrorless cameras, including smartphones, where Sony is huge. No one else is as strategically adept. No one else is as adept at developing adjacent competencies like super tight precision lens surface tolerances. No one else is adept at marketing. No one is as well funded or supported by the C-suite due to the nature of being a conglomerate with a significant component of its DNA, including not only electronics and optics, but storytelling and gaming. The industry was always going to reach this point, at or near close enough functional and operational parity to Sony cameras, although I'd never really thought about when that might be. In the near term, now it's only a question of if or when Sony will once again open up a dramatic lead. a7IV, anyone? a7S IV. Yes, the Z6 III has the articulating flippy screen and XP7 processor of the retro-styled ZF, that processor first appearing in Nikon's Z9 and Z8 flagships. Same 8 stops rated IBIS as the ZF, but 2 more than the current Z6 II. But the Z6 III also sports a brand new 24-megapixel half-stacked sensor to go with that XP7 processor, but don't ask me what half-stacked means because even our Nikon rep couldn't explain it to me. But we can say with a much faster readout speed, and who knows, or in the end, who really cares what other esoteric technical details, the Z6 III can now autofocus down to a crazy -10 EV in normal mode rather than the starlight only mode on the ZF. And I've already mentioned the 4K 60p no crop, 4K 120p with Super 35 crop in H.265, 1080 24p at 95% frame coverage, I should add, record internally up to 6K 60p NRAW and 6K 30p ProRes RAW, monitoring all of that recording capability via finally, yeah baby yeah, a full-size HDMI port with reduced rolling shutter at that. It is worth mentioning that the expanded ISO of the Z6 III is rated at 204,800 like the ZF. But hold that thought. Now that I've relieved you of having to hold at least one of those earlier thoughts, I ask you to hold. But how much better is that rolling shutter performance? How good is the autofocus in video? When does the camera shut itself off from overheating? Has Nikon addressed the depth of field preview limit I saw on the ZF of f6.3? For questions like these and more, I will need a production camera in hand for our usual testing over a more extended period of time. Then again, the switch between auto and manual ISO settings still defies logic. Nikon did not take the opportunity to upgrade its audio, All the more lamentable as I didn't love the original preamps, and now Panasonic has set a new bar with integrated 32-bit float internal recording. And I do want to make two more general points, which are these. First, for all of the current preoccupation with whatever variant of RAW that can be recorded internally, the reality is that very, very, very few of us have any reason to use RAW at all. It takes a lot of storage and processing overhead to begin with, but the real issue is we don't really get any significant dynamic range improvement. It is not clear to me precisely how much shooting in RAW can improve noise at high ISO or at base ISO when lifting shadows that have been underexposed. Nor is it clear how much improvement we actually need. In any case, it seems to me that unless one is a work-a-day, full-time professional camera operator, part of a much larger production team, with dedicated colorists and editors waiting down line, the objective of the camera op is to give as much latitude in the footage as possible to those people to make their own decisions for their part of the value chain. And oh yeah, what difference does it make if the final product is being distributed via YouTube, which compresses the out of everything? Too many of us are intoxicated with the idea of RAW. Second, for all of the drool secreted over crazy high ISO, I don't think that crazy high ISO shooting makes any sense for 99% of us 99% of the time. While I didn't have the opportunity nor inclination to test for it in the middle of the day in the city, I do know that at the point one dials in six-figure ISOs, the image on every camera I've ever tested is terribly degraded, and the dynamic range of both the ZF and Z6 II at ISO 204,800 is 1.28 stops. 1.28, not 13, never mind 15, at least according to Photons 2 photos. Third, a crop at higher frame rates need not be a kiss of death, nor to be avoided at all costs. I've learned, for example, that the Super 35 crop on our S5 II has actually served me well for product B-roll, and when it comes to stills, it's a non-issue. Although cropping is where I like having as many pixels as I can afford and effectively use for stills. In other words, too many of us, sometimes me too, get caught up in specs for specs' sake and don't really think through the implications of actually trying to take advantage of those specs. Uncontrollable speculation, if you ask me. Just saying. None of which is to take away from the conclusion I offered you at the very beginning, so let me recap and wrap it up this way. Once again, with this caveat I cannot stress enough, that is, subject to confirmation via sufficient time with a production unit. The Z6 III is shaping up to be a breakthrough product for Nikon. It offers a step function increase in video capability and a step function increase in autofocus performance for video and stills. It is an extraordinarily capable, now first-tier, hybrid camera at a price point that may quite possibly lead not only to conquest sales, most especially from Sony and Canon, possibly Panasonic, but cannibalization of most particularly Nikon's own Z8, which is larger, heavier, and about 50% more expensive. Yeah, I can really see that, if not maybe for birders who want every advantage, including croppability from a higher resolution sensor. This in turn raises questions not only about when Sony will counterpunch with an a7IV, with what specification, but maybe an a7S IV with what specifications, how truly useful those specifications might be, when and with what capabilities, with again that utility, Nikon may release in a Z7 III. What and when Panasonic's releases of an S1 Mark II or S1R Mark II might bring. Although, at this point, I really don't care what the rumors are about what Canon might do, given the temporal distance between when Canon rumors first appear and when the company actually brings something to market, never mind if it's really all that and a bag of potato chips, for the most part, in recent years, just hasn't been. Then again, for some of us, the real benefit of the Z6 III may well be the impact it has on used prices of a Z6 II, the OG Z6, even Z5. With all of this said, to the extent that this Mark III version of the Z6 series is ultimately seen as a successful intersection, say, between Nikon's Z8 and Sony's a7IV, or again the a7S III, but with twice the megapixels of the a7S III, at the same price as the a7IV, yet only 3/4 the price of the Z8 or a7S III, and to the extent people want to avail themselves, and they should, of the stellar Nikon Z lens catalog, the Z6 III just might be the impetus for holdout Nikon f-mount shooters to finally cross the chasm to embrace the Z system, perhaps the camera to impel shooters new to Nikon to jump ship. We will see soon enough. For now, more questions than answers, but the promise of this Z6 III is fairly dazzling. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 6 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comments section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video call via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost-to-you affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon, links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.